Received a check from the West Virginia State Mapping and Addressing Board for the 50% remaining balance of our mapping reimbursement. I was very pleased that we were able to meet this deadline. There's a copy of the check. I know so often money gets probably put in the bank or dealt with, and you all don't actually see the actual check. And I want to make sure you got to see the check tonight. But we were one of only a handful of counties that were able to meet that deadline and meet that money and get that money back. So we're moving forward with that project, and we've got only one other zip code in the county that will remains to be transferred to the new addressing. And then we're also working with the 3 telephone companies now to review every one of their customer database records and put the new address with it so that when people call in on 911, those records are updated. But we did receive that, and I will probably be asking the commission, unless you all object or something changes my mind between now and next month, is to replace the mapping vehicle that we've been using for 8 or 9 years with a new vehicle, looking for something a little larger because we've got the 2 signs, we've got the generator, we've got a bunch of other things. We need something big enough to pull some of these other other trailers and so forth that we've gotten, and that would allow us to have dual use. But the mapping will never be done. It will be a constant project, and right now myself and I think Joey's the only one that's got a vehicle large enough to pull any of the stuff that we've got. And so that's my intent, to come back probably at the next month's meeting and ask for a vehicle. So we're currently reviewing what's on state contract right now to do that. The other thing is, 5 years ago today, about 5 years ago this month, we entered into an agreement with Comvest for a loan for the new 911 center. This September will have been 5 years. And when we started financing the project and we started looking at the project, Mr. McCann, you will remember we were both floored by the cost of the building as well as the how much over budget it actually turned out to be. And at that time, we scaled back the project. We made a lot of changes, and we agreed not to finish the 2nd floor. Then when we had some additional funds become available, we finished the 2nd floor with those funds and took out a second loan. And I'm here to report that we have been able to pay off that second note actually several months ahead of schedule with Monongalia National Bank. So the $400,000 that was borrowed in 2005 has been paid back in full and ahead of schedule.
Well, you're to be congratulated for sure on that. You understand, making sure.
Well, we were very pleased, and I feel that we still got as good quality of a building upstairs as we do downstairs, and we were able to save a lot of money by the way we did things.
Actually, a lot of personal work into that too.
Well, there was a lot of personal work, and anybody we could talk into volunteering or working for cheap was helped on the 2nd floor.
So what was your monthly payment? I don't remember what it was supposed to be.
Actually, the payment was $48,000 twice a year.
48. I was trying to figure out now, what are you going to do with the rest of all that money from now on?
Well, we've actually got 2 projects, a new phone system and a new radio system that will have to be replaced within the next few years. So I'm trying to determine whether the radio system is most important at this point or the phone system is most important. But as we've talked in the past, you can text your mom and dad across the country, but you can't send a text to 911. And part of that's called Next Generation 911, and in the very near future, we're going to be able to send texts in the 911 center. We'll probably see some video. My son, he went out and he asked me 2 weeks ago, he said, "Dad, will you get me one of the new iPhones?" And I said, "Absolutely not." So he goes down the road and he gets a job, and he comes back 3 days later and says, "I don't need you anymore, Dad. I've got my phone paid for." So he goes out and gets a new iPhone. And the features on that phone and the ability to video conference back and forth and talk to your friends is incredible. Why can't 911 have the same? If you can take a picture of a flood on your iPhone and you can send it to the Lincoln Journal and they can post it on their website, 911 should be afforded that same opportunity when something else is going on. So we're looking at that around the corner within the next 3 to 5 years. The technology is being developed and the standards are being set down. So That's something we're gonna see happen. So the money that we've got is not extra money. It's just, it'll be used for another piece of technology in the near future.
I sort of thought I'd get an answer something.
Sometimes you know the answer when you ask the question, right?
Or know the person's gonna give me the answer.
And my last item that I want to bring up, we had the commission assist us with the purchase of a 100 kW generator. That generator is finally in. That generator is in the parking lot tonight. Behind my vehicle, I brought it down hoping that we would have some public service district officials that might want to look at it and look at what needed to be done. But that generator is large enough to handle several of the power requirements of the pump stations across the county. At this point, I'm in the process of having a hold harmless agreement drawn up so that when the county does loan that to whomever, we will supply it, but it is the responsibility of the receiving agency to make the connection, and they accept the responsibility once it's connected. I don't want to see us held liable if equipment is damaged on the other end. They need to be the one to supply the electrician on their end to hook that equipment up. Don't you agree?
No.
Okay.
Just sitting here looking at it and thinking all the money and then yeah, sitting right there, you see that thing. I almost think if we need somebody, it's always gonna be the same one or two people that goes with that generator, make sure it is hooked up.
Well, I think we can do that, but we have to separate us from the liability
Well,
of the
that's
water
right.
plant. And I'll be more than happy, and I've got staff that have been trained on it, and we'll do that. But at the same time, I don't want us, if a water pump, when you're dealing with three-phase power has a rotation method that if you hook that power up improperly, or if the plant is not wired properly, or the work has not been done in advance by that plant, there's no way to know, and you have to make sure that pump turns in a forward motion, not in a backward motion. And we'll do everything we can to make sure that this is done in advance. But I don't want us to be the
Yeah, I
one to
understand.
take that generator out there, hook it up, and somebody said, well, you blew up my plant. They have to accept a certain amount of
And you plan
responsibility
to-
on their end also.
Put something together in writing so that there'd be training and written understanding and agreement, this is what.
Well, we need to, who's responsible for the fuel once the county drops it off? Is the county gonna maintain the fuel, or is the person that's getting the generator gonna maintain the fuel? And those types of things, I just think that we would be better off having a written agreement.
I do
And
too.
we'll bring it back to the commission to agree to, but that way there's no questions after the fact. We know beforehand how the procedure's gonna work. The other thing that came